Welcome to Astro Chat with Anne Sundell, Kimberly Williams, and Monika Anna. We are three professional astrologers living in three separate countries, coming together every new and full moon to share our 3 points of view on astrology. Whether you enjoy deep dives into the current transits or you are just beginning to learn about astrology for the first time, there is a place for you here. All that is required is an appreciation for astrology, along with a respect for the various traditions within it. So grab a mug of coffee, your favorite cup of tea, or any other beverage of your choice, and join us for a chat on the astrology of the next 2 weeks. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It is another Astro Chat with myself, Kimberly Williams, Monika Anna, and Anne Sundell. If you've been following us this long, well, welcome back again. This is a very special episode because this is our 1-year astrological anniversary. Our first episode began on January 1st, but it began with the new moon in Capricorn. And here we are talking about that new moon again. So as Monika was saying earlier, that says something about the longevity of Capricorn. I like that comment, Monika. Y'all have anything you want to say about 1 year in? It feels like we should pause and just honor that for a second.
It's incredible. Like we just said, there is something to say for Capricorn and Saturn. We chose well that we started with the new moon in Capricorn. Actually, I think from memory, we were meant to start a couple months earlier, but due to logistic issues and so on, we actually started with the new moon in Capricorn. And hey, sometimes, the best laid plans couldn't pick the better electoral date for us to actually start something. So I think that was pretty cool. And as you probably if you've been listening to this podcast, you probably know that I'm a great friend with Saturn. So I'm the Saturn's biggest fan, and I think it speaks to that. It speaks to the commitment that we made to each other and to the audience. It speaks to the persistence that we had with everything that this year has thrown in our direction, personally and professionally. I think this was recording this and meeting you guys and meeting you online as well. It's been a ray of sunshine in my life over the last 12 months. So thank you both for meeting me here in this space and for doing that together.
Thank you, and thanks to the audience that's been following our journey this year. That has been very special in many ways for many people. It felt a bit like deja vu to pull up the chart and look at new moon in Capricorn again. It was like, has it been a year already? So yeah, excitement to see what is coming.
Yeah, and I cannot wait to see what the next coming year is going to bring. I know we have a bit of a teaser about one thing that it's going to bring, because Monika has some really exciting news to share, and I won't give it away. I'll let you do that, Monika.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so next year on the 7th of March, here in UK and in US, I will be publishing the Astro-Luna Journal, which is an astrological journal of self-exploration and empowerment through the moon and astrology. And it's written by me and illustrated by amazing Sibylline Maynett. And it is effectively an adventure with the moon and the stars and space for your journaling throughout the year. It's not a calendar as such. It is an actual journal, so you can pick it up whenever the new moon in Capricorn happens or the new moon in January in Aries happens, and write down your notes, your intentions, and then come back to that. It's supposed to be a journal that takes you on an adventure of self-exploration. So really excited about this book. It's been a little baby of mine, and yeah, it's finally here. We will be announcing this actually 2 days before the new moon in Capricorn. So just on the winter solstice, it will be announced to the world that the baby will be coming, and it will be officially available to buy from the 7th of March. So yeah, exciting times.
Can't wait to be able to order the book. I'm just counting the days now.
Yes, yes. And I will put the link under the video as well, with the pre-order site for both the UK and UK publisher and the US option as well.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
please do. I cannot wait to pre-order my copy. So I'm
Thank you. And
chomping
thank you
at the
both for your
bit. It looks
support.
beautiful, in addition to, I
Yeah.
know, being chock full of great info.
Well, thank you both for your support on this journey, because you've been both amazing. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah. And a little sidebar before we jump into looking at all of this lovely new moon energy is that as we were preparing for this recording, it became apparent that many of the three of us here are feeling uh, the pre-shadow of the upcoming Mercury retrograde. And so just going to put out there that if the words coming out of my mouth do not match the words floating in my head, my cohorts here have agreed to catch me on it, and I've agreed to do the same. And hopefully, we will go through without any hitches. But just putting out there that, astrologers can feel that retrograde energy too. You're not alone if you're
Yes.
feeling it. So let's
Yeah, absolutely.
let's dive in. We're dealing with the upcoming new moon, the end of this month on December 23rd. It will be at 1 degree 32 minutes of Capricorn. So if the early degrees of Capricorn are significant in your chart, this might be of even more importance for you. We're going to see it happening at early morning, 4:15 a.m. here in Texas, Central Time, US, which means it's about 10:15 a.m. over in England and 12:15 in the afternoon over in Finland. So wherever you're at, hopefully you have some kind of software, free or otherwise, where you can pull up a chart and look at this. We'll be pulling up a chart soon so you can follow along if you're watching us on YouTube. I think that's it. So Anne, take it away. Tell us about the Sabian symbol for this lovely lunation.
Yeah, we kind of have a little routine with checking out the Sabian symbol, so why not continue it? And for this particular degrees in Capricorn, the whole theme for these are capitalization. That's the main theme. And for this first degree of Capricorn is an Indian chief claims power from the assembled tribe. So we have the tribe word here too. I think it's suitable for this tribe. And then the power and responsibility implied in any claim for leadership is one of the keynotes for this move. So what do we make of this? What do you think, Monika?
It's interesting because it's this first degree of Capricorn. It's taking the power back. And again, I think the theme of power and powerlessness has been quite present in our podcast this year and our lives as well. So this idea of the symbol on the new moon, and also so close to the solstice, of claiming your power back. I mean, you cannot think of how close to the winter solstice it is, to the reborn of the king, to the rebirth of light. And I do think this is something about staking your claim, knowing that there is this light in you, that winter solstice moment, the moment of knowing that even though you have gone through a really dark time, we are in a dark side of the year in the northern hemisphere, there is the moment when the light is getting stronger, when the light is getting reborn, when you're actually growing in your power. And on a personal level, this is the moment, between the winter solstice and that new moon, where you can actually recognize that power in you, and then over the next year build on that and grow your light and grow your power. Again, this idea of finding authority and finding, for me, it's very linked again to Capricorn and Capricorn new moon. Capricorn is effectively where we achieve our authority, or where we claim that in our chart. So wherever you have Capricorn in your chart, on whichever house cusps, this is where your expertise comes in. This is where you claim your authority. And we do that, you know, very often through a sheer power. That's when that that claims to authority is basically the authority being usurped. Like, I don't know if that's the right word. I think, again, like Kimberly said, I'm a bit discombobulated with the Mercury, but this is where we're trying to claim the right to something through sheer force. But when you claim that authority of who you are at your core, when you really understand the Capricorn theme and archetype, especially that rulership by Saturn, you understand that you're claiming that by who you are, by what you've experienced, by what you gain, by what you learned. And we can see that again in our lives, that people that we're attracted to, that we believe that their authority on the subjects, those are the people that not only gain the knowledge through learning it, but also they experience that, they have that track records, that we can trust them, whether it's, you know, our GP, whether it is, you know, a sports coach with a track record of success. They can prove that they have that authority. And again, that new moon in Capricorn, if we can go into the new moon now as well, for me, this is the moment of a rebirth of our power. This is the moment when I begin to put my goals and New Year's resolution, and I know that became such a dirty word over the last few years. No one anymore, it doesn't feel like anyone else doing New Year's resolution these days. But for me, this is very much a Capricornian energy. You know, I've had time over autumn to think and reflect and shed on the year gone by, and now the winter starts. Not the deepest time of the year starts, but the sun in the winter, from the winter solstice, the sun is actually getting stronger. It's actually coming back into its power, right? And that's the moment when I can use that Capricornian energy to put down the plans and my goals for next year and really commit to it. This is, I think, what it means when you're really committed to building something, and day in, day out, you know, like sports people, that's the commitment that they have. You know, 5 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m. in the morning, they go and they train. Or, you know, if they're running or something, you know, it doesn't matter if it's hot outside, if it's cold outside. Like, you know, I need to go to the gym, I look like, oh no, it's too early, it's too dark, it's too cold, it's too hot, it's always something, you know. But you have those people who are so committed to their goal that it doesn't matter what's thrown their way, they're going for it. And that commitment, if you have that commitment somewhere in your life, when you have passion or work, or you're putting that commitment to your family, nothing stands in your way. It starts at the new moon in Capricorn. It starts when you say, okay, this year I want to achieve that, and nothing that comes my way will stop me. This is the energy for me. This is the power of Saturn supporting us, not the Saturn that restricts us. Of course, if you need to do something, whether it's to write a book or, you know, train to win, I don't know, taekwondo championship, you have to restrict something. You might have to restrict diet, you might have to restrict your social life, you might have to restrict something, but you're not restricting it for the sake of restricting it. You're restricting it because you have a priority, you have a goal, you have something that you committed yourself towards. And when you're achieving that, that's when you can claim that authority. That's when you can say, do you know what, I've done 10,000 hours of meditation, I know what it takes. Sorry, I love Saturn, I love Capricorn, so I can talk about it for hours. But what do you guys think about that new moon?
I think I like that commitment with Capricorn, I should say. I feel that this new moon should be in January, because we think that January is we start the year from there, we set intentions, but now it's like it's moved, it's early, it's setting intentions. Yeah. It's good energy for doing that and thinking ahead also, that Capricorn not only the commitment, but also the reliability of that sign somehow. That when you say, I will do this, I will proceed. The Capricorn moons, I happen to be privileged with living with several Capricorn moons during my childhood and growing up. So I see in the commitment it can be, but also the struggle, like even if it's raining, if it's minus 25, if you go in running, you're still going running. I mean, the commitment is very, the focus is great. Even the days when most people would maybe say, well, I skipped this day, the Capricorn moon will not do that. They will continue with the plan. So commitment, reliability, yes.
Absolutely. Agreed. There's no sign more aligned with this idea of commitment and responsibility and duty, I think, than Capricorn. And when the moon is in Capricorn, whether that's in our natal chart or by transit each month or the annual lunations, it can be a time that's it's easy, I think, to get hard on ourselves. What is more important? Is it the commitment I've made, or is it my body? Is it my emotional needs? There's a tendency when the moon is in Capricorn to kind of push those things aside and be like, I'll deal with them later. I think one of the Achilles heels of Capricorn energy is often this delaying the gratification. And I see that the most when the moon is in the sign, right? It's important to sometimes hold off. We don't want to go the other extreme to instant gratification, right? That would be defeating the purpose of what we're striving towards, but to delay gratification until the goal is achieved. And how many goals are we striving to achieve? Is it one or is it many? And when we achieve the goal, do we stop and celebrate, or do we set another one? So there can be a bit of turning into a taskmaster on ourselves, I think, when we see this energy. And other than that, I agree with everything else that both of y'all have shared. I would add that something Anne was saying about the Sabian symbol combined with what you were sharing, Monika, as I was listening and taking that in, it kind of made me sit here and think there's something about this particular Capricorn energy where I think there's going to be a lot of challenge between what is good for the tribe, what is good for me, what is good for the collective, what is good for me, what I need to do as a leader for others, what I need to do for me. And we're going to talk later, I think, about, the challenges between Capricorn and Aries, which is why I'm kind of setting this teaser here now. But I think there's something about personal agency. I've often looked at the charts and gone like, where does personal agency come in from an astrology point of view? And this to me feels like it. Am I the leader because I have the label and therefore I feel responsible, which is often a very Capricorn kind of thing. I have the title, I have that label, I have the certificate, I have done the work, and I now have something to show that I am qualified. Or am I the leader because I know what I know and I know enough? And I say this because I'm thinking it can go either way. We can get into situations where often the person, quote, in charge is not the person who's directing things. We see that a lot in a lot of businesses or families. And then it can also go the other way, where even though I may have 10 certificates on the wall, I don't feel that I know enough, and I keep deferring and giving away. So this idea of what does it mean to step into leadership? What does it mean to have responsibility? I feel that they go hand in hand. Responsibilities often imply a sense of leadership for whatever you're responsible for. And then, am I responsible because I tell myself I must be? Am I responsible because it really is my job? Or am I taking on responsibilities that aren't mine? And where's my personal agency sitting with all this? So that was just something that kind of hit me as y'all were talking, and I figured I would throw that out there too.
I like that, because that also speaks to what Capricorn really teaches us in our charts is sense of maturity. This is the moment when we mature. And the moon in Capricorn for me is that, again, that emotional maturity, like you say, Kimberly, it's where I understand what is my trauma and my trauma response, and what is just being an adult, you know, and actually taking a responsibility for things, for my life, for my own actions, and then actually taking consequences if I've done something wrong, you know. So this is the kind of moment that Capricorn requires of us. And that's why whenever I talk about goals and New Year's resolution, this is I think what doesn't sit well with us, because Capricorn expect us to be adult, and adulting is freaking hard. You know, it's so much easier to have a parent who tells you, you know, you need to do your homework and now it's time for bed. And then suddenly, you know, you're the adult. You have to tell yourself when it's time to bed and stop scrolling, you know, on your reels. And you have to tell yourself like, oh, I need to get up, you know, to do my gym, to do my, you know, gym boot camp, or, you know, go to work, or, you know, be responsible for the friendship and relationships that you have. So Capricorn expect that from us. But again, with Capricorn and with that hard work and that maturity, we get the rewards. And I think that's why I like being friends with Saturn, because it kind of teaches you when you step into your own maturity, when you understand your own role, when you understand your own authority, and you take accountability for that and responsibility for that. And again, like you say, and you're stepping into that leadership position from that mature place of, I know what I know, but I also know what I don't know. So I'm not going to pretend to know. I'll just refer it to another specialist. That's the great position to have. And that's the position that I feel like we then benefit. The interesting bit I'm going to throw here is in the chart, which we'll be talking about, the ruler of Capricorn and the ruler of this lunation, it's actually unaspected. So Saturn doesn't really make any aspects, and it floats there on its own, which I find quite interesting given how busy this chart is. So it's having a ruler of this lunation being, you know, not talking to any other planet, not talking to any other energy, it can make this lunation a little bit outside of everything else. It's like everything else is going through, and the king doesn't know what's happening in his own kingdom, so to speak, because the ruler of that Capricorn doesn't speak to anyone else. It doesn't hear it. So can we actually integrate those energies that we'll be talking about today? Or the Saturn and that kind of mature part of us, that teacher within our chart, doesn't actually understand this lesson because it's not involved in conversation. What do you guys think about that unaspected Saturn?
It's very interesting in that sign and with that moon, because it can also, with unaspected planet, I think that the planet is maybe a more raw version of itself. It doesn't have support from other planet via aspects, and it doesn't have limitations from them. But still, it might also feel a bit like some things are happening outside me, and I can't really I can't control it. A sudden unexpected planet can feel like something, this is happening to me, and I cannot know why. And it's not up to me. It might feel a bit like powerlessness sometimes, I think. So it's a very important part of this chart to try to be aware of that planet, because it's there, and try to see how the things that are happening might be connected, and not like feeling that we can go into a martyr state with a planet that's not aspected. Like, I don't know what's happening around me. It's like it's not connected to me. It is this that's going on, you know. It might feel like that, but still, that's why it needs a lot of awareness. It still is quite powerful, I think. I don't think, even if it doesn't make aspects, it doesn't make it unpowered. There is a lot of power, but to find a way to use it, that's the key. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think there's often a focus on what's happening around us or outside of us with the unaspected planets. And with Saturn, you know, it can also feel overwhelming, or there's just too much work, or everything is too hard, or this mountain is too big for me to even know how to climb. But the other thing that can happen is we're not able to access what's inside, right? If the planet is unaspected, it's the aspects that allow us to see the light of those different parts of our personality as they interact, as they planets talk to each other. So if there's no aspect, how do I get in touch with my own inner master, wise one, sage, all of those, the inner adult even? How do I get in touch with that? It can feel like there's a disconnect happening. So I think when a planet is unaspected, especially so significant that it's the ruler of this lunation, it can be really helpful to look at what's happening with your chart. Is there a way to step away from the outer world, all those transits hitting me, and get back to how is this Saturn, and the Saturn that Monika is referencing, it's transiting at 21 degrees Aquarius. What's going on in my life? How do I embrace Saturnian energy in the Aquarius realms of my life? So go back to your natal chart and see where that Aquarius energy lives and what you have there. And is there a way to kind of go down that rabbit hole and get in touch with that part of yourself and not be distracted from that part of yourself by all of the responsibilities happening out and about?
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely with unaspected planets, yeah.
Definitely. All right. Well, I guess before we move on, I should probably bring up the chart so people watching can follow along. So give me just 1 second. I'll pull her up. All right. So let's pick back up here. Hi. All right. So here's our lovely chart. I've hidden the date, I just realized. So I'm going to remind people that need to know. We're looking at December 23rd at 4:15 a.m. Central Time. Convert that to your time. And of course, as always, we don't work with the ascendant or the midheaven. We live in 3 different countries and time zones, so we're just working with where the planets are. So I think the first thing to notice is that we've got a huge stellium. Seems to be the word of the year, right? Here we go with another stellium in Capricorn. Stellium, for most folks that don't know, stellium is when you have 4 or more planets in the same sign and or the same house. Some people say it's 3 or more. Some of us say 4 or more. Pick your number. But basically, we have a cluster of Capricorn energy. We have the moon and the sun at 1 degree, Venus at 16 degrees, Mercury at 21 degrees, and Pluto at 27 degrees. That is quite a team. If you listen to some of our prior episodes, you're going to get some information on stelliums. And if you really want to go deeper, if you've had somebody born this year, or if you're somebody who's born with a stellium, those of us in the late 60s, I know that during the 80s, there was also some like Virgo and Capricorn stelliums, and there's probably other times that I'm not aware of. There's a great ebook that I believe you can still order by Donna Cunningham. I highly recommend it on stelliums. I think her site is operating in perpetuity, and so you can still buy that there. It's really good if you can get your hands on it. Basically, what we're seeing with the stellium energy is everything's locked together. We can't get in touch with our emotions of the moon without also thinking about the energy I want to shine out into the world with the sun. We can't do that without also thinking about who do I need to connect with of Venus, but I can't make those connections unless I get my communication skills of Mercury on board. But it's kind of hard to make that happen unless I'm thinking about what I need to leave behind about the old way of being to make room for the new way of being of Pluto. And often when things are spread out, when you have a splash chart, when you have things across the chart, you can work on one while you develop another and kind of go back and forth and work things out. When you have the stellium, everything's interconnected. And all the energies of these planets either are moving forward together or they're not moving forward at all. It's all or none is the way I think of it. And often the way to get kind of into that energy, to find a way in to start connecting with these different archetypes of our being, is to start with that middle planet. So it's sort of if you do dominoes and you set up a great thing, there's always that one king pin or queen pin that you hit and everything else then goes. That's the way I kind of think of that middle planet. So Venus here being smack in the middle of this stellium by degree and by position might be an indication of how are we going to get into this very difficult, hard to access Capricorn energy. Maybe it's not about me figuring it out, but we figuring it out, working with that Venus, with groups, with friends, brainstorming. Maybe it's embracing Mercury by speaking out loud to another. Maybe there's some energy here about if I find out how others see me, I can see myself more clearly. So I think that if anyone is struggling with Capricorn energies during the week of this lovely lunation, that might be something useful to try to get in there. I'm also going to throw out, before I pass the baton to my friends here, I'm also going to throw out that there is a quincunx. Did I say the right word? I said the right word, right? No. Yes. I'm telling you, the brain and the mouth are just not working today. There's a quincunx between all that energy in Capricorn and our lovely Mars. We'll talk about Mars a little bit later, probably, but Mars is still out of bounds, which we talked about at length in our last 2 episodes. Mars is still retrograde. So there's something here about needing to take action. And with that energy, this particular aspect, it's often about I have to make adjustments. So maybe we have to look at where we have set up safety nets, would be one example, a very Capricornian thing. Have our safety nets become actual walls and barriers? And how do we start taking action to adjust that? Is sort of the way I would look with it. If, like me, you work with asteroids, you might want to plug them in because there's also some lovely water to water trine energy happening. And I won't go into depth about that because of time, and we have so much more to talk about. But I will just say that, if you're looking for, this is already starting to feel heavy, think about that this is healing energy, that this is a time of, if we make space for how this feels and work through some of those scarier emotions, there can be a whole lot of healing and there can be a whole lot of resources of things we can use that maybe we haven't been looking at before. I'll just put a pin in that there. And what do you guys think about all of this Capricorn energy?
Well, it is a year, like when there's so much energy in Capricorn, for me, it's the pull in the heaven to, again, I'll be repeating myself, but to step into that area of our chart when we need to become an adult, when we need to mature. This is the energy that says, okay, everything, we're pulling all those energies, all those planets in one sign, because we need you to concentrate on that one sign, on that Capricornian themes. And given that obviously that this is happening at the end of the year, it's very much, for me, how do I reflect on those energies at the end of the year, and how do I move forward? It's a new moon, so it is placing, planting that new seed, creating that new intention, not just for the new moon and the monthly cycle, but also for the whole yearly cycle that we can start with Capricorn. So what is it around the light that I shine, my emotional intelligence, my relationships, in the past year that I can reflect back, and in a year that I can put the goals and resolutions forward. How have I communicated, and have I communicated in a respectful way? Have I communicated my authority, whether it's at work, whether it's with my children, have I communicated my sense of authority, or I haven't? And how did I claim my authority with that Pluto in Capricorn? Did I claim it by power? Did I claim it by sheer force, or did I claim it because I stood in my power and that kind of shined through and it was visible for people? So when I stepped in to speak up, to share that information with my relationships, to shine that light. That authority, that power was just shining through me. So this is a lot of energy at the end of the year to reflect on. And like you say, Kimberly, it can feel heavy. I mean, Capricorn is not the lightest of the signs, but it's the one that brings great foundation. It's what we said at the beginning of this podcast. We started with the new moon in Capricorn, and 12 months later we're still going. Given that a lot of podcasts, start, and a few episodes in, they stop. I mean, we looked at some of the stats at the beginning, have we? I don't remember exactly, but there is an average of the episodes, and it's quite low, isn't it? Because it is a commitment. It's that persistence, it's commitment. It's no matter what's happening at home, at work, or wherever else, we need to meet, we need to record, we need to edit, we need to put it out there. And this is the energy that I'm thinking it's needed to carry us through the year. So if we want to have a productive year, if next year, Christmas, we want to look back and say, hey, I built something. Hey, I built long-lasting relationships. Hey, I really built a foundation in my life where I can have a safe emotional space, when I can safely, and powerfully share my light. I'm speaking to those planets now here, when I can speak up, what I want to say, and why I can find my own authority, my own power. If I want to do that in December 2023 and be grateful for that, when I'll be celebrating full moon in December next year, I start now. I start planning, and I start stepping into that energy, because if I do, it will carry me through the next 12 months. So by the next December, I'll go, I've done it. I've made it. So this is kind of how I feel about that stellium. It pulls you in, and it say, okay, you need to cut all the other distractions. That's another thing about the stellium. It cuts all the other distractions. Like you say, when we work with the different charts, we can go into Venus in this sign and work with that. We can go to Mars in this sign and work with that. And if it gets too heavy or too, I can switch to Moon. I can switch to something else. We can find distractions. This is another thing, that we don't have to go heavy into something, because like, oh, that needs work, and I'm tired of working here, I can go somewhere else. This cuts down the distraction. This just zooms in, like, that's it, that's your work. What are you going to do about this? So yeah, that's my few thoughts about it.
I know we have a lot to talk about still, so I just really shortly want to add one comment on the stelliums. Generally also, that when you have so much energy in one place, I would also look at what is on the other side of the chart, the opposition. Like we have Cancer on the other end, we have emotions, we have the roots, we have the foundation we come from. So that's also one way to work with a lot of energy. And sometimes you can feel that also in a personal chart. If there's a lot of concentrated energy in one sign, you will see also a feature of the other side of the opposite sign as balancing out. So just short note, but I agree with you on this.
Yeah. And I think going back to what I mentioned about that quincunx to that Mars, the thing that stands out to me is everything that Monika was just saying about, this being driven, if you will, right? That this Capricorn energy, the stellium of this Capricorn can really help us to set some goals and stick with it and go there. I think the big challenge might be that I lose myself in the process. How often do we make a commitment and the commitment now means more than myself? I made a commitment to be there and now I'm sick, but I will be there. That idea of not being able to hit the pause button, not giving ourselves permission to make it about us. Or perhaps my goals have just changed and I want to launch into something new. I want to take responsibility for launching a new venture. I'm thinking about some of that Mars energy and Gemini, but I still have obligations to this group, or this group. So going back to that Sabian symbol, I keep hearing that in the back of my mind that you shared, Anne, and I just keep thinking, is it that when the king takes power away from the tribe, is that because I'm reclaiming it for myself? Is it because I'm resetting those goals, those values that the mountain I want to climb may not be that mountain anymore. Maybe it's this mountain now. And that can create a lot of challenges and a lot of emotion if we're not dealing with our emotions of shame, blame, guilt, feelings of failure, whatever it is, because we took the responsibility so seriously or we feel like we have shirked it. Whatever the scenario is for each of us individually, it's important to embrace that opposite sign of Cancer and really get in touch with what am I feeling and what is the goal that I'm making this commitment to, and does it still hold for me?
And I think you're bringing an interesting aspect to that stellium as well.
Oh, another aspect.
You want to talk about that Venus a bit?
Venus and the stellium, yeah, of course. Venus is connecting the stellium with an outsider, Uranus. So, and we still have this interesting duo with Uranus and the North Node in Taurus. So, what can we think about Venus? I mean, this can be a bit of another type of way out from this. Another type of experiencing maybe very traditional values, maybe something we have from memories. I'm thinking about also Christmas time. I think things should be, we might have a vision of how we want things to be, or how they have always been, or what is the tradition we are used to. With Uranus, it might challenge us a bit more to how can I do this in a new way, in a unique way? What other way of socializing might I want right now? Is there some new way I can do things? What brings me some kind of excitement into this more traditional values or plans I had? There might be some change of plans I need to attend to. How flexible will I be with those? I think also that the whole Uranus in Taurus theme has been testing us how to see new ways, how flexible can we be, how up are we for change, and how positive are we also for adventure, for doing things out of the ordinary, or finding a new way, maybe creating a new tradition this year that I want to continue, or something that's more unique for me. And maybe if I feel that I'm a bit locked in old ways of thinking or traditions, or maybe the same way my family always celebrated a certain holiday, maybe I can try a new thing, and maybe I like it. Maybe everybody will. What do you think?
I like the Uranus. I think again it can be quite frightening. Uranus can be that lightning bolt that's like, oh my god, what just happened? And having that interaction with the Venus that is in the middle of that stellium. And again, Kimberly, speaking to what you just said, that Venus is that one point that kind of, start working with the whole stellium, and Uranus is like, okay, I'll work with that stellium, bam, and then something comes up, something unexpected, something from the field that you didn't see it coming, you didn't expect it, and this is the energy that we can expect as well on that new moon. So it's like, yes, with everything that we spoke about, the stellium and the Capricorn and the claiming your power, and then it's like, bam, Uranus comes in and it's like, what just happened? So it can be unexpected, it can be quick. That Capricornian energy, which usually is not very quick to change. I mean, it is cardinal sign, so, it's not fixed, but it's not a very quick energy in itself, like the energy of air, of fire, right? But with that Uranian insight into that, I think there might be something with that North Node that will change the direction, that will put that kind of spin in the works, where it was like, okay, we need to pull all that Capricornian energy and effort into something completely new, into something that will potentially realign us with that North Node with Capricorn. So I wonder this is more of a question to myself as well as to you guys and to the audience. I wonder how much of everything that we said about Capricorn will be in service of that North Node Taurus and changing things drastically and unexpectedly.
Yeah. I like the fact that you brought the nodes in. So we have this beautiful sextile between Venus and the South Node in Scorpio, and then of course that trine to the North Node in Taurus, right there next to that Uranus. And what keeps playing in my head is there's a song in the Tim Burton movie, The Corpse Bride. There's one little scene where they're like, everything must go according to plan. And everybody's singing, but the little couple are like, but that's not my plan, right? That's not the way I want it to go. We want to marry each other. And so as I'm like looking at this, it's like, yeah, everything at Capricorn saying everything must go according to plan. But I think that Uranus thing could be like, but whose plan? The plan you have for others, the plan you have for yourself. Oh, hey, what about the plan that was your sacred contract before you came in? That's totally in your unconscious and you're not even thinking about. So while we may consciously be doing the gas and brake about is it me or is it them or is it us or is it others, that can be taking up a lot of our energy and our awareness. This could also be saying you get that lightning bolt moment of, oh, here's the unexpected thing you totally didn't expect that's helping you get back on course with the bigger plan, the karmic plan, the life mission, if you will, the what is the next step in moving you forward. And personally, I'm very excited about that because just as Monika is a #1 fan for Saturn, I am not, but I'm learning to appreciate her much more. I am a #1 fan for Uranus. I am Team Mercury Uranus. So I'm just like, yeah, it may be overwhelming, but change is always good in my book. So I'm um, kind of sitting with some anticipation, like a kid waiting for Christmas. I'm waiting for what is the big spark going to be that starts for me in the new year, starting with this new moon.
Maybe we'll see Santa in the sky unexpectedly with that Uranus. I know.
It might be
Kimberly, you were.
different.
Huh? Sorry?
It might be a different Santa.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Kimberly, you were about to bring up as well some of the other quirky and unexpected things that planets do.
Oh yeah, the out of bounds.
In the
Out of
sky.
bounds.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with Out of Bounds, I suggest you listen to the last 2 podcasts because in both of them we were talking about it because Mars went out of bounds just before Halloween, if I remember correctly. It was the end of October. And we talked about what that means. Basically, we're looking at, the sun, you can pretty much rely on her to be predictable, to be consistent. She's never higher or lower in the sky than a certain point. She has her range. She is, as we are orbiting the sun from our point of view, she's never going above or below, she stays within the boundaries of the tropics of Capricorn and the tropics of Cancer, right? She's never going to go beyond that. So she gets to a certain latitude and comes down to a certain latitude and comes up. And like that's those bands that circle the earth, that's her boundary line. She's always going to be within that range. And planets don't have to follow that. So sometimes planets go beyond, they go higher, they go lower. And that's basically when we refer to them as out of bounds. What's important to understand isn't so much, I think, the astronomy as the symbolism to that. When something's going out of the range, it's going where the sun cannot go. It's going where your light cannot go. It's going where the energy you want to shine cannot go. It's kind of like it's going to go play somewhere where it is no longer seen, right? Because the sun is the light of our soul. Everything else reflects sunlight back to us. The sun emits her own light. So they're going where they can't be seen really, and therefore can behave in whatever way they want. So we might traditionally be a person who works her or his or her inner Mars as I'm a fight, flight, or freeze. I fight. I'm going for action. And now suddenly Mars is out of bounds and like, whoa, I'm retreating. I don't do that. Or something else could happen it is not predictable, right? Planets have a little more freedom when they're out of bounds to behave in less predictable ways, less ways that you would expect. The other thing that is amazing about out of bounds is they can be erratic. So we might have one day I'm feeling the urge to fight. I have been feeling this with the Mars out of bounds so much. The one day it's the urge to fight, and the next day it's, peace and love, and I'm just going to pull back. And so it's not always consistently the same kind of energy. And the third big thing is this is the place of genius. And I mean that sincerely. When you start looking at the charts of who would you call a genius, Frida Kahlo, Einstein, you're going to find a higher than average rate of planets out of bounds in their natal chart. It allows us to think outside the box about the energy of that planet. So there's this excitement that there's this freedom and this out of the box thinking, but there's also this, what is kind of scary, because there's a things don't go according to plan in terms of that part of me behaving that way that I'm used to. Very erratic. And what we're seeing this month, right, is we started off with Mars out of bounds. It started in October and it will be out of bounds through May. We've got Venus went out of bounds on the 1st of December and stays there until the 24th, just after this lunation. Mercury went out of bounds right around Thanksgiving on November 23rd, and it stays out of bounds until the 21st, just until Yule, until just before this lunation. And just as Mercury's coming kind of back into the bounds, the moon's going out of bounds on, I believe, Anne, you had looked it up. I believe it was on the 22nd. So that's a lot. That's all your inner planets. We've got, at some point this month, we have Mercury, Venus, Mars, the moon. Some multiple of those is going to be out of bounds for basically the month. So I think that's a lot, especially when we think about the fact that the moon, Venus, Mercury are caught up in the stellium. So they're out of bounds while they're in this very crystallizing, figuring out what I want to commit to Capricorn energy. But we're not doing it in our normal way, or we're not doing it about normal things, right? There's something that is beyond the boundaries of how we normally would handle or think about or process responsibility and duty. It's different. And Mars, which we already said, is creating this pressure of we need to make some adjustments. It can't always be me. It can't always be, the collective or those I'm responsible for. There has to be some balance here. That's not happening in a normal way. So I just feel like there's a lot of pressure happening under the surface, and that with this lunation, some of this is going to come up for all of us in our various ways. And since we already mentioned Uranus here, that comeuppance, well, that could be a little shocking. It could be in ways that are unexpected and take us off task or away from the plan we had set into motion. How are you planning on working with out of bounds energy this month, guys?
It's a very good question. I don't think I have an answer for that yet. The answer is I wasn't planning to working with them, which usually means I'll just let them work through me. Which again, sometimes we need to find that balance. The question is as well, how do you work with planets out of bounds or with Uranus? Because you don't know how to work with them. Like you say, Kimberly, they're the planets that go beyond and above and under and over and, around your usual way of working. So it's really interesting energy that we're talking about, that Capricornian energy, stepping into your authority and being mature and having those plans. And then everything within you, your emotions, your relations, how you relate to others, how you communicate to others, all those internal planets are out of whack. So basically they act not the way you normally act. So you might be like, well, how do I step into my adulthood and maturity and claiming that power when I behave so different to what I normally do? And again, there might be a genius in that energy. There might be a way of, well, test it, try different way of stepping into that, try different way of relating to people, understanding your emotion, communicating with people, because actually when that planet will come back within the bounds, you might actually learn something and bring that fresh out of the box thinking, insight that you've gained into yourself, into the the kind of Capricornian then way going forward. And maybe what you've learned when you were out there, you can then incorporate into your own goals for next year. I like to think about those out of bounds energies, like the travel. You usually go from home to work and from home to school, and you have this kind of usual route. And then you decide, what? I'm going to take a month off. I'm going to take a backpack and I'm going to go and, I don't know, travel in Colombia for a month, for example. I don't know why I picked up Colombia, but just, you're going to a country that you might not know, to the land that you don't know, to the people that don't speak your language. And there's no usual route. You might be wearing different clothes than usual. You relate to people in a different way, and you're finding your way around it. And when you come back, if that travel was actual kind of travel and exploration adventure, not just sitting by the pool with a cocktail, that's good too, but that's not what we're talking about here. When you actually travel and explore, this is the kind of really true meaning of Sagittarius before the Capricorn. You bring that knowledge, you bring something different, you bring something that you've learned outside of yourself, outside of your normal boundaries, and then you incorporate in Capricorn. That's why I love the wisdom of the Zodiac. You learn that in Sagittarius, and then you incorporate that in Capricorn. And that's kind of how I feel about those planets out of bounds. Go there, learn, explore, play with different expressions, and learn what works. And when it works, bring it in, incorporate it, and put the plan for next year. So I think that's how I will approach that.
I think those both ways sounds good and also just to know to expect unexpected things, or to be open to working with those energies differently. Another one that that have a bit of the same kind of energies, or a bit of also taking teachings and what you learn to another level, is Jupiter, that's going to move into Aries. Then it's about what you said, Monika, what we have learned in the outer world, what we have being teach there and integrating it, or self-teaching, or where we want to take this now. We can experience a kind of a like innovation, or we can get very inspired by this Jupiter going into Aries, like having a direction with this, what we take with us from this Capricorn energy. So maybe not doing it too fast, but because it's a new moon, new ideas, new innovations, maybe write them down on a paper and renew them, as in January as parts of the new year plan, for example. But there's something about changing the focus of the teaching and integrating it into what we have learned.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, for me at least, the hardest part is just accepting that, or how did you put it, Anne? Just being willing to accept that things will be different, that things will not go according to plan, to just expect the unexpected and be open to that instead of pushing back against it. And I often find that with the energy of Uranus versus Capricorn, that can sometimes be that source of tension is, oh, things are, different, but wait a minute, I already had the plan figured out. And so being able to be flexible and go with it can be probably the only thing that one can do, because how do you plan for what you don't know?
Yeah. I mean, we were actually discussing that square because that Jupiter that Anne mentioned that moves to Aries, and I think we had a date, Kimberly. We looked at it. I think it moves on the 20th. Yeah, on the
Ingress is on
20th.
the 20th.
just a few days before this new moon, it's actually making a square. So you have new moon in a cardinal sign of Capricorn, and then Jupiter in a cardinal sign of Aries. And we were all discussing before we started recording how we feel about that square, because it can be really, really tense. But for me personally, I feel like that Jupiter, because of that beneficial, expansive nature of that planet, can actually help put all those Capricornian plans and energies into action. We have Jupiter in Aries then for the next 5 months. I think it's until end of May, I believe. So I feel like that kind of boost and expansion and energy of Aries will actually help us carry on with those plans until well into the year. And then Jupiter will move in Taurus, and we can actually start those plans maybe growing, and having like a concrete proof that something's working. But personally, I think that tension can be quite creative and help us move that sometimes stay stagnant, energy of Capricorn. Like we can stuck in that we can stuck in that moment of just making plans and polishing them off and creating different steps and action points and actually never going beyond that. So I think that Jupiter in Aries will go, okay, that's it, that's done. We have a plan. It might not be perfect, we might have a few steps missing, but the goal is there. The kind of the general skeleton of the plan is there. Let's go, let's do it, let's. And I feel like that kind of, and it's not in a mean way. I think Jupiter in Aries will be that kind of like, let's do it. Yeah, we have the energy, we have the wind in our sails. Let's go for it. But this element of unexpected with that, I mean, when Uranus is involved in any lunation, I'm just thinking there's always something that is sparkly. Lunation is all about the light, right? Whether it's the new moon or full moon, it's always like whether the light is in its fullness or the light is missing. And Uranus is that planet that represents light and lightning, and so I always feel like there's something kind of coming in to light that changes the direction or changes the way we think or do or approach situations. So I'm excited for this new moon. I really am.
And also just thinking about the fact that Jupiter ingresses into Aries the same day that the sun is ingressing, right? It's happening on the solstice. So the sun ingresses into Capricorn and Jupiter ingresses into Aries, and they perfect and make that exact square. And both of those signs, of course, are cardinal. So there's something that is happening just days before this lunation and it's still here, it's still continuing to cook, but it begins that push of what are we going to start? Where are we going to take action? And with cardinal signs, we're not going to sit on it and wait, right? It's that something needs to happen. And this is not our first exposure to Jupiter in the 0 point of Aries, to this what will I launch, what will I initiate, how will I be initiated kind of energy, which is how I think about that Jupiter at 0 Aries. We had this back in May, right? Because Jupiter came right into the early degrees of Aries and then it retrograded back into Pisces for a few months. And we talked back in May when this was happening that pay attention to what you want to start right now, because it may not necessarily take off at this moment. You may have to sit on it. It may have to cook. It may have to tweak it. You may be waiting for, the right resources, but you will launch into it in 2023 as Jupiter gets back into Aries and stays there. So I think this could really be that feeling like you're on the diving board and about to launch.
But be careful how you launch and where you launch, because Mercury will be retrograde. So we have end of the year with Mercury retrograde. And Kimberly, I do not have a dates here. Oh no, I do.
I have
Mercury
dates.
will be in retro. Yeah, I think you gave me them. You sold them to me before. Go ahead.
So our pre-shadow has already begun, right? That started on the 12th of December. I'm sorry. Yes. And the retrograde happens on the 29th at 24 degrees of Capricorn, and it will stay retrograde until January 18th when it goes direct at 8 degrees of Capricorn. So everything from 8 to 24 Capricorn is caught up in this.
It is indeed. And it's again, it speaks to me, the Mercury retro at the end of the year speaks to that. Let's reflect on the year. We have that new moon, like Anne said earlier. New moon in Capricorn tend to be in January. It's quite early new moon this time around. But the Mercury retro still speaks to me. It's like, okay, yes, the calendar year might be coming to an end, but astrologically speaking, we need time to kind of reflect back and see what we need. So it's interesting that Mercury will go direct on the 18th of January, again, a few days before I think it's a new moon in Aquarius. So yeah, I'm just thinking I'll be taking this time from the new moon in Capricorn to the new moon in Aquarius. So that's lunation that's coming now. That is very much my lunation of exploring the out of bounds, looking for unexpected, and looking where do I have authority, how I relate to people, and how I can step into my power next year a bit more. And then with new moon in Aquarius, I'll start the revolution.
I love that.
I think that's all that we wanted to touch on in this
That's all.
episode, have we? That's all. That's all, folks. Feel like
That's
the
a lot.
Looney Tunes today. It is. It's probably one of the longest podcasts that we've done. But again, it's the end of the year. And I think it deserves a little bit longer.
Yeah.
The
So
next time we speak, the next time we speak will be 2023.
that's right. That is right. So, tips and tricks before we part. Anyone want to go first?
I think we
I'd
said
like to
so.
go first. Oh.
Yeah, please, Monika, you.
Thank you. I think for me, whatever festivities you celebrate with your family, I think it's such a magical time. There's so many religious holidays kind of around the time of the year in December, not just Christmas, obviously, that there's such a special and magical time, the time that in the world you might not be able to see it yet, but on some level you can feel that things are turning, that light that's been going down, now it's going to go up, now it's going to grow. And I would love for people to take time over these holidays, if it is an hour that you can carve to yourself because of the busy life, family life, work life, or if it is a bit longer than an hour, just take that time to reflect back on the light that you have, the light that you can bring out of yourself in the next 12 months. Reflect back on how amazing this year could have been for you. I know from my own experience and from experience of my friends and family that it's been incredibly difficult year. But again, there is this kind of silver lining. We've managed to survive. Some of us managed to thrive, but we were strong enough to cope with things that this year threw at us. And that's the strength in itself. That's something to celebrate. That's something to be proud of. And I really would encourage people just to take time over this holidays, not to get caught up with everything that we need to do, but just take time with a cup of tea, with a glass of white wine, with your journal, just to kind of look back at the 12 months and everything that you've done, because you will be surprised of how much you achieved, how much you can be grateful for, and have that kind of gratitude letter to yourself. And maybe this is something that I sometimes do when I do workshop. Write yourself a letter from looking from 2023 Christmas back, and write yourself a letter in that kind of past tense, but from looking from the future in the past, what you want to achieve in the next year. So you're sitting in your favorite chair with a hot chocolate, or you're sitting by the ocean in Maldives, wherever it is that you imagine yourself in December 2023, and you're looking back at how much you achieved in that year. That vision that will come forward, that vision that will come through you now, will guide you through the next few months, will be that kind of northern star that will bring all your decision into alignment. So if there will be a decision, should I do this or that, you'll look at back, where do I want to be in 2023 in December? What do I want to celebrate? And if it aligns with my vision, I'll do it. If it doesn't align with my vision, I'll park it for now. So no special tips. I think the just the reflection the year back, because we don't appreciate our own strength sometimes in our own achievements. And I think it's important to celebrate that at this time. And just maybe that little tip of writing yourself a letter, dear so and so, it's December, you've been amazing, and the things that you achieved and the things that you can be proud of, and the things you've done are, and go forward with that. So that would be tip from me.
Awesome. And Anne, what were you going to share?
A very short tip. One sentence that's important, I think, that many people should think about also during these times. There is a life after Christmas too. I mean, people stress themselves to pieces. And like Monika said, take time for yourself, reflect. I would like you to maybe pick a memory you have from the holidays, however you celebrate it or not celebrate it, and that you like, and what kind of feelings you connect there. What was a memory that is not connected with achieving or with buying or with being better, just a memory you like, and reflect a bit upon that, and try to find some peace around this stressful society we live in, and have a very, very good holiday, however you want to celebrate it. That's my tip.
Lovely. I'm kind of echoing here. I think that this time of year is hectic and busy enough without having something else I have to do. So I'm giving myself permission to not have to do anything extra. And I think when I look at this chart, what I am inspired to do from this lunation until the new year is nurture myself, right? Embracing that Cancer energy that's the opposite, that balances out all that Capricorn. And nurture can look very different to different people. For some people, it's taking a bath, and for other people, that's like, ooh, gross, And for some people, it's a massage, and other people are like, I don't have time to sit and do that. So nurturing is a very individual thing, but I would say simply bring some awareness to where your time goes and what you want to spend time on, but don't. Because Capricorn, right, is in and Saturn, both of those energies are very wrapped up with time. And so if we simply notice there's something I want to give time to and don't, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's sitting with your cat on your lap or reading a book. That might be the thing that is emotionally nurturing for you. So just maybe notice where your time is going, is not going, what you want to spend time on, and find a way to nurture yourself that way before we jump into all of the wonderful goal setting and things that happen. Remember, we don't have to goal set on the new moon. A lot of people actually say, let's wait until the crescent moon before we start taking actions. New moon can be a time to just absorb energy. So yeah, I would say rest. And if you're going to reflect on where you want your time to go in the coming year. Nurture yourself. That's it.
And we're looking forward to seeing you back in 2023.
Yes, it'll be an exciting year that we get to all go through together. Woohoo.
Bye for now.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us in this week's Astro Chat. We hope that you enjoyed the discussion and would love to hear about anything that resonated with you. Keep the conversation going by posting shareable content on our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube pages. You can also email us at astrochatpodcast@gmail.com. AstroChat is uploaded every 2 weeks on the Saturday before each new and full moon. Look for us on your favorite podcast platform as well as on YouTube. You can support AstroChat and receive exclusive content by donating on our Patreon page. We look forward to chatting with you all again at the next lunation of the moon.